You've been showing up, you're taking action, you've started something new, and you're even staying consistent longer than you thought you would. But now you have this new worry and you feel a little bit unclear because you're not seeing big results yet and things haven't taken off. That's where the new question starts to creep in. Is this really worth it? Am I building something here or am I just spinning my wheels? Let me ground you in something before we go any further. Most things don't happen quickly. I'm not saying they never can, but most things don't. I'm not going to share tips for how to get rich quick. I'm looking for long-term results to grow something steady over time in your spare time. For most of us, we don't have the amount of time to dedicate to building something that will get overnight results. Not saying that some people can't do it. But for most of us, if you're working full-time and balancing life outside of work, you don't have the time to do that. This is a much slower path to building consistency. What you're doing right now is building something that's going to take time. It may take months, but it will take consistency. If you stick with it, as I have, you will see it grow. The key is whether or not you're moving in the right direction. Welcome to Second Act Simplified. This podcast is for women in midlife who want to start a side hustle or a new project without blowing up their daily life. We're into week 6 of the Second Act Starter Series. This is an 8-week series that we're going step by step from feeling stuck to actually building something that fits into your real life. There's not a lot of pressure. There's no dramatic changes, just practical steps that work. Let me give you a quick rundown of weeks 1 through 5. They will be in the show notes as well. Week 1, you got unstuck. You stopped waiting for the perfect idea and started using a tiny test to get some movement and some traction. Week 2, you looked at your time and were realistic about what pockets of time you have that you can start to do something on the side. Week 3 was about simplifying, no overcomplicated plans, just a simple, realistic way to get started without overwhelming yourself. Week 4 was about building confidence, but just getting going. Week 5 is really focused on getting that routine down. Here we are now in week 6, and we're in a different place. You've started, you've been showing up, you're starting to build some momentum. Is it worth continuing? Let's make this simple. What counts as proof? At this stage, I want to call it some things that proof is not. At this stage, you probably aren't making any money. You're probably not going viral. You're not going to have a big audience. That all comes later unless you're established. Right now, proof should look more like you followed through, you created something, you've learned something. That's huge. You're willing to do it again and again. That is real progress. Here's some examples of what that might look like in real life. If you're a blogger, you've wrote and published a post, and you're starting to understand what you like writing about and the pieces that you want to continue going forward. If you've started using Pinterest as a marketing tool, maybe you've created some pins, you're testing some different ideas, and you're starting to see what works or doesn't work. Honestly, I have another episode about Pinterest, but Pinterest takes a lot of time. Sometimes it takes 11 months for a pin to really gain some traction. Pinterest is also a really long game. If you're podcasting, maybe you're recording episodes and you're getting more comfortable speaking. I'm now into the low 30s on my episodes. It is much easier for me to just sit down and record, to talk to the camera. I'm not super nervous. I still wouldn't want my family standing around me watching me, but in general, it does get easier and you do feel more confident. You start to not overthink it as much once you have some traction. That's also proof. They're not big results, but it's forward momentum. When you're trying to decide if something is worth continuing, use this. Did I actually do it? Not plan it. Did I take real action? Do I have enough interest to do it again? Not excitement. It doesn't mean you're jumping up and down, but just enough interest that you're going to keep going. Is anything responding? You might have some clicks, some saves, some conversation. Maybe your own clarity is improving. You're looking for signs of life, but not big ones. That area, I almost cringe to say this because the response test is really at this point going to be mostly from you. One of the things that was most fun for me when I got started and really why I pivoted to this podcast is because it's been so fun for me to do the blog and Pinterest and meet other people doing similar things that I want other women in midlife to have that same opportunity. Once you think about the feedback that you're getting, adjust, but don't abandon. Most people quit too early to ever really get enough clarity on what they're doing. And yes, you may need some small tweaks, but you probably don't need a major overhaul. You might need to change your approach a little bit or refine your idea, but that's going to come over time and it's not going to happen quickly. What does working for you mean right now? Working might look like I showed up consistently. I created multiple pieces of content. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm getting more comfortable. Those things count, and that's how it builds. So don't validate an idea by looking for instant, huge results. It's not going to happen in most cases. Validate by taking action and paying attention to what happens, and mostly from yourself. Here's what we covered today. Proof at this stage is going to be mostly small and personal. You're looking for signals, not overnight success. And 3 validation tests are action, energy, and response. Most of that is going to be personal response. You might have to make some small adjustments, but don't abandon everything too early. Define what working means for you right where you're at. If this episode helped you stop second guessing your idea and start evaluating in a more realistic way, make sure you follow along with this series. If you want help narrowing down your idea and figuring out what to test next, go to the Second Act Pathfinder in the show notes. It's designed to help you move from thinking to doing it in a way that fits your life. If you know somebody who keeps wondering if what they're doing is worth it, send this episode to her, and I'll see you in week 7.